wild and scenic. Those are the words often used to describe the Rogue River, known for its raging water and bountiful fish runs.
The bottom of the river is fish Disneyland. I mean, I'm just floored when I get out here and I see these fish ripping around. It's really, really impressive.
But the water doesn't just provide a home to fish. Nearly 200,000 people call the surrounding valley home. Whether they're working or using the river to play, one thing is for certain: humans use a lot of water and send a lot of it back down the drain. Here at the Medford Treatment Facility, an average of 17 million gallons of wastewater are treated each day, cleaned, and returned to the Rogue River. The challenge is that the historically cold Rogue River is warming, and the cleaned water returned by the facility contributes additional warm water to the system.
Fishing on the Rogue River is world famous, and once I caught that first steelhead, I was hooked. I think for me and for a lot of people in this valley, the Rogue River and its fishing was a big part of what brought us here. So the problem really arose in that the treatment plant in Medford, they have a permit. When they were due to do their permit again this most recent time, the discharge coming out of the treatment plant in October, when the river was at its lowest point, was causing temperature increase in the river. And minor temperature changes in the river can have an effect on fish populations. The city needed to do something about that in order to meet its permit requirements.
It's people like Tom Suttle, a longtime employee of the Medford Treatment Facility, who was tasked with finding an effective solution.
The water going into the river is too warm, so we had to do something to offset that temperature. We looked at other alternatives for cooling the water, chillers, removing the water from the river for a period of time, reuse. All of those were very expensive.
But one solution was significantly less expensive, and surprisingly, it was the only one that provided a net environmental benefit. The Freshwater Trust designed and presented to the city a regulator-approved water quality trading program to meet the temperature requirements. It was one of the first programs of its kind. The solution? Plant trees.
Temperature trading is planting projected shade and offsetting the temperature load on the river, and it's calculated in kilocalories. So what the city does is we contract with the Freshwater Trust. The Freshwater Trust finds the property, coordinates with the landowner, does the planning, maintains it, has it certified by an independent certification group, and we get a certificate that this section of planting gives us so many kilocalories of temperature offset. So we're buying shade.
The City of Medford program was innovative because it was the first time the facility managers and the regulators had the ability to compare apples to apples, a restoration alternative with a gray alternative. The city's contribution to thermal loading in the Rogue River is pretty minimal. The costs for the other treatment alternatives were really high, and the benefits created were really low. Water quality trading programs simply give us the ability to use dollars wisely where they're going to achieve the greatest ecological benefit. By distributing restoration programs in the watershed where the fish actually need it, the city's making a much bigger contribution to the overall watershed health than would otherwise be possible with the implementation of technologies like chillers.
In order to offset the temperature influx of the plant's outflow, trees will be planted and maintained for the next 20 years. The process begins here at places like Althouse Nursery, where native seeds are propagated for planting.
I've been growing trees, I'm 60 now, and been growing trees a long time, so it's surprising how fast they grow. And then there's the reward, as you'll find out later, the project manager came back to the nursery and he said, "You should see those plants that you sold us. They're great." It's kind of fun because we've been able to create some jobs for some people that are kind of outsized. The jobs are very scarce in rural America, so we're fortunate to be able to offer some employment out there, so it has helped. If you have a healthy environment, you're going to have a healthy economy. If you've got a healthy river system, you've got healthy fish, you got fishermen. You got fishermen and all the revenue that they're generating, and the hotel industry, and it goes on and on and on.
The cost of the program was definitely a consideration because we're looking at lowest life cycle costs. The other options were high life cycle costs because you have ongoing maintenance, you have ongoing staffing, you have ongoing power usage. So this was definitely the lowest life cycle cost. You figure a pump is going to last 20 years. In 20 years, you're going to have to replace that piece of equipment. Well, in 20 years, these trees are going to be 80 feet tall.
While trees are being prepared for planting, one of the most important tasks is to find sites where new shade will have the greatest impact. This means working with local landowners who lease part of their land for river restoration.
You know, I was very skeptical and cautious. I think I was the first landowner for this particular project that was approached. And you think of all the legal ramifications, you think of the contract and how everything needs to be perfect in a contract. But you know, the project speaks for itself when you point out the other options, the mechanical means of cooling the water before it goes in a river or building a lagoon. This just makes a lot more sense. And I see the success in watching these little tiny seedlings just a few years ago look like they do now. As a landowner, I didn't have the means, the equipment, the money, or even the expertise to do the amount of work that Freshwater Trust has done.
An important part of that work isn't done by just the Freshwater Trust. Locally based implementers like father and son team Dan and Dave Bish from Plant Oregon provide critical planting and stewardship services.
Posterity.
This is a good problem to be having here, too shrubby a plant. We get to, be the stewards of the river, and we're helping to clean the water and keep it cool, and we're planting native species where we were clearing out invasive species, and it's just it's an amazing thing. It's amazing to see a site transform from just a big mess to a healthy riparian environment.
It's going to cool the water, just like the plan,
Yep.
I mean, the computer calculations say that we're going to have shade on that river. It's our job to get the trees up there,
Yep.
Make sure those models are right.
Yep. We got to get the trees to grow, and we're seeing great growth. It seems so difficult, the rivers are a mess and everything's out of control, but really the answer is easy, just plant trees.
Plant trees.
It's easy.
This project on Little Butte Creek was planted about 2 years ago. So in 18 years, we expect to see tree heights in the 80 to 100 foot range that will cast a lot of shade on this stream. Currently is lacking shade in many areas. Our goal is to have the forest of the future coming up, and shade will be continually growing deeper, thicker, and taller to provide more and more thermal buffering to this stream. It's kind of nice to think about what if we could get our rivers to look a little more like this. We won't get every river to be this shady or have this kind of canopy overhanging, but every chance we get to create a little bit more of this kind of habitat, the better.
In meeting their temperature requirement, the City of Medford went outside the box to create an effective solution for their problem. But this isn't the only treatment facility that faces a water quality challenge. Many more across the country could be implementing a watershed restoration approach that is both economical and better for the environment.
I would recommend trading as the right solution. It's the only right thing to do because you're restoring the health of the river.
We're beginning to really value the services that the environment provides us. We need to consider the environment a place where we can invest and see return. And more we're starting to understand how that can happen through programs like this.